one big model to solve all of our problems is fine at the beginning, but this solution does not scale well.
Sorry, we don't have any more budget for you.
Yeah. It's nothing preventing our competition to doing exact same thing, right? We have no moat here.
If I'm not yet on the wave, am I too late? Hi, my name is Marcin and welcome in Product Odyssey, the podcast where we try to find out ways how to build products fundamentally better. Today with me is Maciej. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thanks. Today, let's dive into the topic, a hype topic, a hot topic, which is AI, a very loaded word, right? But let's look at it from the perspective of CEO or CTO who might right now be on the path of being interested in AI or building AI solutions, who thinks about how to organize not only how, but also how to build the solution without taking too much risk on the cost. So how not to bankrupt with going with AI. But let's start with maybe some basics, right? AI is so much a hot topic, so I cannot believe that we can even start to discuss anything without assuming that in 2 weeks it can change a lot. So we've went through 2023 where AI was a marketing thing. So if you have a solution, it needs to have AI to sell. And if you have AI logo or a topic there, everybody buys that and invests it. But still, we haven't seen any kind of like a huge practical implementation or a solution built on top of that. So probably that's where we are going with this in the 2024. But when we are thinking about AI, this loaded word, we look at multiple things behind that, and everybody is, it seems, talking about chatbot. So is it so that all of which is behind AI, all the potential is chatbot only?
Yeah, I understand where this is coming from, especially that for the last 2 years, AI is basically synonymous with a chatbot. But AI as a discipline goes back up to the 50s of the last century. So this is not a new thing. There was lots of progress since then. And for the last 2 years, AI goes mainstream mostly because ChatGPT, so it's in mass media, it's basically all around us. It's a very hyped topic. So especially if you're building some product in IT, you want
to have everything connected with AI, right?
Yeah.
So anything that we do, everybody's saying, okay, can we add AI inside, right? So we are building a calculator, and can we have AI inside?
Exactly.
Yeah, that's. I agree with that, right? It seems like it's a hype topic. It's not, but it's like the big tech companies has entered the floor. So Google entered there, Apple entered there. Every big company is actually trying to experiment there. OpenAI topics appeared, so it seems that's why it's in the mainstream. So everybody's talking about that, but again, everybody's talking about chatbot. So we are talking about this familiar structure that you type a prompt and then you get the answer. But is it so that this is the only thing that we should look for? Is there any kind of bigger potential, any kind of examples of what we can do with that more than just write?
I think this is the current state. So basically when we think AI nowadays, it's mostly text interface, mostly chatbots. But I believe that 2024 will basically do a paradigm shift in this regard. So multimodality will be the biggest, the hottest topic this year. We're recording this early 2024, so it's hard to predict what's going to happen later this year. But I guess that multimodality and interacting with AI in other means than just text would be basically the main thing that we're going to discuss at the end of the year. Right? We got a preview of this with all of the hype that Sora generated. Mm-hmm. So mainstream is now aware that AI is not only text, it's also a video. Tools like Midjourney or DALL-E is also quite common nowadays to generate images using AI. This is also nothing new. most people, the ones that use AI on a daily basis, already know that you can have multimodality support. So even in ChatGPT, you can basically upload images, ask about them, right? So basically you got image as an input and text as an output. And this is just the beginning, right? So this is still early, humble beginnings of a completely new industry where all of those multimodalities will basically mix and blend. And nowadays, text is basically as a medium, a glue that connects everything, at least in the products that we interact with on a daily basis. But this will change this year. From the technical standpoint, based on the research papers, there is no need to use text as an intermediary. But we as a tool makers, we as a people that basically create the consumer-facing products, are not aware of this yet, at least at this point in time. So, and this is the biggest change that we can. My prediction is that this is the biggest change for this year, that people and products will going to make use of it. So it's if you're not doing this right now, it's a good moment to actually get into the game.
So that's a good message. I guess that everybody is feeling that you need to get in the game. We don't know maybe how in most of the cases, if I'm a small company or a mid-sized company or a startup. But you've mentioned, just to move back to the multimodality, right? Just to check if I understand it correctly, the aspect is that text is something that we are familiar with. So I'm putting a text inside and getting text outside. But what you have mentioned is that we are going far beyond that. So examples are shown that it's also going beyond the form. So image transformation to video, or a video to image, or I can scan my food and get a number of calories which are there. Or I can even give any kind of different form, voice, and then turn it into text, which is known. Text to speech also is known, but then there is far more, right? Examples of, I can see the tools and applications where I'm editing a video without actually only providing a prompt. So I'm having a raw form, and then I'm able to provide the inputs and then get the outputs in the video. Any kind of other interesting application that you have seen or seen in the past days of multimodality other than those examples?
Yeah, there are lots of proof of concepts. So not many shipped to market products yet, but many proof of concepts that are really, really interesting. So I've seen cases where people basically talk with an AI agent on their computer and basically creates a complete web app, right? So without touching the keyboard at all.
No, I've seen that. Yeah, I've seen that. That's crazy, right? To see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't need to have a team, right? Almost. It's like you don't need to have a development team. You write one sentence, and then everything is the AI is creating a code. And then, as a result, you have the full working application, right?
Yeah,
in a matter of minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So this is basically also like a paradigm shift for how we deliver products to the market, right? So it's clearer now more than ever that code is basically just a mean to achieve the goal, not the goal on itself. So you need to know how to talk with the AI agent to actually, you need to know what you want to achieve, right? So this is the goal of all of the products, right? So it's not only how to write it, but rather how to describe what you actually need, especially with interacting with AI, which is basically less context aware than a typical developer. At least now. This may change with AGI and all of the progress that is in front of us. But the current state is that like a typical AI is less aware of what we want to achieve. So we need to be even more descriptive. But this kind of proof of concept where you basically can talk to it, describe all of the functionalities. If there is some missing parts, it will ask you back. You just reply using voice. And then as a result, you got, there is still a code, so a text. But the result you're asking for is an actual product, in this case, like a web app, right? So,
right. That's...
It may not be perfect. It may not be market ready. but this is something that will allow you to basically prototype much quicker, test it with your early adopters much quicker. So something to ensure that you actually get a traction.
So it seems that we are in the same situation, but with far greater speed and advancement, like we had it with the with IT and approach to building solutions. So right now, it's not a question if something is possible to be built. So we can build anything, we can code almost anything, going even beyond software to hardware to anything else. The question is only if you have a time, money, and the team to do that. It seems that with AI, we have went with that far faster than with the previous domains. So it's like a new internet. Whatever we'll try to put it into as a box. But you've mentioned two interesting things. One is the idea that it's way faster and cheaper to even start with any kind of prototype. So getting a chatbot ready or any kind of like a example of application where some image is transformed to video or anything else, it can take days even. We have seen hackathons where you can build chatbot in a day, right? So everybody can do that. But the tricky part is it's building that a prototype is a very easy and fast thing. But then creating a competitive advantage from that, creating a business from that, creating something that will scale up, that seems like a challenge that nobody yet has cracked, right? Any kind of thoughts around what we should look, or what is the source of risks, or what we should look as a CEO when I'm thinking about approaching any kind of new process or the new idea with AI? Anything that you should especially look for as a risk?
Yeah, there are multiple risks when you want to build an AI-based product. First is that we need to have skill sets in-house, right? So if we're not building AI products before, there is a big chance that we don't have anyone in-house that is capable of actually delivering such product, right? So we need to basically hire either someone in-house or some consultancy that will help us to build the product.
And
so
we're talking about, especially, sorry for stopping here, but we are talking about specifically this kind of roles, right? In the past times, we have thought about data engineers, data scientists when we were talking about machine learning. Right now, we are talking about a little bit different skill sets, right? Skills that can have model thinking in their heads, prompt engineering, right? Anything to that?
Yeah, so I believe prompt engineering going to be like a really basic skills. Like everyone needs to be able to do the prompt engineering, at least now. So the multimodalities may change this, but currently the said is that prompt engineering is basically the next coding. Everyone should be able to do it at least at a basic level to be efficient in the workplace. But so the skill set is the one gap. The other one, quite often omitted or not looked into until it's too late, is the cost. So basically, AI solutions could be very expensive if not done correctly. Like a typical usage for new startups or new products that wants to integrate with AI is to use some kind of proprietary foundation model, most often by integrating with the API, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking about like using GPT models from OpenAI, or Vertex from Google, or any other solution out there. And this is completely fine. So this is the quickest and most efficient way to get your product to market. So especially if you don't have the skill set in-house, it's the best approach to basically use the foundation models that the smart heads already created for us. Then we can basically just make use of them, integrate, build on top of it, deliver some value, and go to market with it. So this is a great approach, especially for prototyping, for building quickly, and training our own models is extremely difficult and expensive, especially if we're thinking about like building some kind of foundation model. This is basically out of reach for like 90% 5 or 99% of companies that want to integrate with AI, this is completely out of reach for them. It will be much better using some kind of open source model as a base and then just fine tune it. But most often, more often than not, the typical case is that we got some developers in-house that are hyped with the AI. We want to deliver some kind of AI-based product or just a feature within our product, and we integrate with OpenAI, send some data to the API of OpenAI, receive some result out of it, manipulate it on our side, and then deliver it to our end users. And this is completely fine, especially in the early stages, if this actually works for us. But once we ship the product, we can quite often realize that it's much more expensive than we anticipated. So this is like quite a common trap here, especially when all other of our costs are basically most often than not fixed costs, right? So the development cost is most often than not a kind of a fixed cost. Our hosting, all of our day-to-day operations are either fixed cost or something that we know at least what scale we can anticipate. With AI integration in this way, so using like external APIs, this is most often than not pay-per usage. So similar as with I don't know, serverless or other products out there that also are based on pay-per usage. This can basically quite quickly go out of hand if we don't know what to do. This can happen because one of few reasons. Either we can basically make a mistake in our code, basically calling it with too much context than necessary, too often. There are cases on the market where people basically make just the programming bugs and create like a infinite loop or something quite similar to it, and basically ramps up hosting costs for like serverless or other pay-as-you-go services really quickly. So
yeah, I can imagine a situation where you can actually go with this loop or the error easily from just having like tens or hundreds of dollars accounted for the model into thousands, because basically we are using prompts all over again and again, right?
Exactly, yeah. And this can happen in a matter of hours. So this is
this
can go completely nuts.
But there is like a simple just to find out a solution or a quick fix already on that, right? Isn't that the cap, or putting a cap on numbers of prompts that you have, or the budgets, allocating budgets? Is that helping us to secure it completely?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is one way of preventing from actual bugs. So we can create some kind of cap or alerts to be aware that something is going out of hand, right? So this is one way of doing it. But for the other problem related to costs going rapidly, so basically the actual usage. So if this is a programming bug and this basically goes into some kind of loop, then we can just basically stop it, disable it, and fix it, and we're fine. But let's assume a different scenario. So our product is actually fine from the product perspective. There is no bugs, but we got extremely successful. Let's say that we launch a new product and we are like, I don't know, like number one on Product Hunt or something like this, right? So our product gets extremely successful in a very quick time. This is the goal of our product, right? So we want this effect. We want to be successful. Lots of people are signing in. Making use of our product or a new feature, new business line inside our product that is using AI. So this is completely hyped. We are very happy. We got new users, and then we got the bill from OpenAI or other provider because we didn't calculate correctly how much a typical user would cost us in this kind of integration, right?
Or even worse, right? That you have put some cap, as we have discussed, and then you have a situation that you're out of the budget, right? So it's almost like
this is basically the worst. This is a nightmare, right? So let's assume that let's say you are the number one on Product Hunt and you're extremely successful, and then you basically hit the cap and you got all of those new people that want to use your product, and they cannot do it because you set some kind of cap, and the AI product is no longer working. So this is a complete nightmare. You got bad reviews. Basically, the moment of glory that you want to have is basically like a moment of nightmare. You lost and changed. So you basically cannot create this kind of hard caps.
Is there any kind of alternative for that? So we are talking about two extremes, right? I can put a cap and risk that there will be a message, sorry, we don't have any more budget for you. You can leave it outside, like, okay, let's assume that we'll anyway give opportunity to ask any kind of number of questions and then have a bill. Is there any kind of middle ground or approach for that?
Mm-hmm. If you're like a large enterprise or your venture capital backed, is maybe okay for you to basically eat the difference for now and basically make use of the new traffic later on. But there are ways to actually to prevent it, right? So making sure that your costs are under control, basically calculating them beforehand, making sure that you know what you're doing. It's not that hard, but you basically need to ensure that the user journey is mapped correctly, that the typical usage of a user is calculated correctly, and that there are some margins because there probably, as with any kind of feature, there are going to be probably some really heavy users and some that are not very into the feature. So you need to like basically ensure that in the end the overall is something that you can
handle, right? It seems that it calls for this kind of like understanding or getting the understanding of how it should work before, or assessing what could be the cost. You've mentioned also that the idea of having a strict rules or a process that can guide you, especially if you have bugs, right? You can have a quality gate. All of that calls for, it seems, the situation that you need to have somebody as an expert or as somebody who is experienced in that, right? So it seems, is it so that it seems that you need, good rule of thumb would be get somebody familiar with that if you start with the journey, right?
Yeah, exactly. This always is a good idea to get some expertise in-house if you don't have it already. So yeah, and using a consultancy is a very good idea to get this knowledge into your organization really quick. So this is one way of doing it, right? So building your team in-house will basically take longer.
Yeah, so I'm trying to look at it from the high level perspective of a CEO or CTO who is starting that. We're talking about risks and costs. So we have mentioned that the cost structure can go from the perspective of using too much of the model. If you take the model, we're talking about thinking of the costs of people that you get in, that you need to take. There are approaches how to minimize this with a cap, but the expertise is it seems that it's a main takeaway that we should think about. I'm trying to move back to and dig a little bit deeper with the situation with the cost of usage, right? Because usage, we think about how much time I'm asking a model as a cost. So how much times I will ask, this is every time it's cost me money. Is there any other costs connected with that, or any other aspect that I should look for when we are thinking about this infrastructure or anything that can generate costs on a daily basis?
If our integration is just a basic connection to like a OpenAI API, then we pay by token. So basically by every loosely give or take a word that we send into and receive from the model. So there are ways to optimize this part to make it to make it more cost efficient. Basically, limit the number of tokens that we are sending and receiving, making use of it.
Right, but using the tokens, it's still like limiting the cap on use, providing a cap on usage. But then there is the other part of that, which is the data that we use. And I need to think about that. Anything that I should be looking for or watching out regarding data? Should I connect everything to the model? Should I give the access to and store everything? Any kind of aspect to that?
Yeah, so if we're thinking about like a typical basic integration, then we think in terms of tokens. But if we thinking about training our own models or feeding the models with our own data, then other costs get into the picture. So basically, one thing of using our own data into the mix, the easiest way to start with are RAGs. This approach is about basically retrieving a data from your internal knowledge, knowing which data needs to be retrieved, and injecting it into the context of a model, so the model can make use of it and retrieve something valuable out of it. And this is the easiest way to do it, especially if you're starting with AI. So we'll need some kind of either vector database, so we need some kind of storage in the database to actually handle the data. And there are tools to connect to our internal databases that we already have, retrieve data out of there, create something that is usable by the model, inject it into the context, and then basically the foundation model that we were based off, we can basically get much more value out of it, because it's not only is based on the foundation model that is teach like the one that everyone have, right? Mm-hmm. So it's not the one that
It's adapting the models, right? So it's taking the standard model and trying to adapt it with your data, right?
Yes. Another approach is to fine-tune the model. Mm-hmm. So this way we need to have some resources to actually fine-tune it, some foundation model that is provided to us, right? So we can use tools like Vertex AI from Google or fine-tuning from OpenAI. Result of this process is a new model that is made just for us, that is based on the foundation model, but later on it has our own internal knowledge. So this is much more expensive to train, to fine-tune, but later on the usage may be more effective, because we are not sending all of the we are not wasting the tokens to send the context to the model. Mm-hmm. The model is already fine-tuned to have all of the context.
Right. So training the model can reduce the cost of reaching for a data every time, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it depends on the use case. So it's hard to say without the exact case which solution is better. This depends, especially with the rise of high context models like Google Gemini Pro, which currently have like a 1 million token context and probably would have like a 10 million context soon. So this is like completely nuts. This would allow us to basically put all of our knowledge into the context, so no need for RAGs anymore. But then the cost would be much higher, right?
Mm-hmm. So until this will happen, correct me if I'm wrong, we're talking about the situation that either I'm taking the model as it is and give it connection to my data, so it will reach for a context, correct? Or then I'm training the model, therefore I'm investing in training, but then I'm reducing the cost of reaching for a context. So it's a performance, but also there is a cost connected with the fact that the model needs to reach for a data, right?
You're correct, yeah.
Okay, and then you've mentioned also the unstructured data. So I'm familiar, and most of us are familiar with the structured data, so tables, SQLs, relationships. But then we are talking about the models which are taking the context from unstructured data. Can you elaborate a little bit more here how I should think as a CEO about building that and maintaining it? Should I think about that, or is it just giving access to everything to the model?
Actually, nowadays models are pretty good of extracting the data, even from extracting the knowledge even from unstructured data. But the best approach here would be to actually put some kind of data engineer on the job and ensure that we can get some meaningful out of our data. So I think important takeaway here is that if we are on the market for many years, we probably already have some useful data that we even are not aware of that can be really helpful, right? So it's important to think, especially with the multimodalities that will be the hot topic this year. One of the modalities is also the unstructured data, our business data, right? So it could be our use cases, our logs, our how users interact with our application, what they are doing. This kind of events can also be maybe in a form of a text, but it brings some kind of context, some kind of patterns in it that can be extracted and can be used by either the trained model, the models trained in-house, or the...
So it seems like we know that models are good at understanding the patterns or finding the patterns. So we are back into the basics like machine learning and then algorithms that can find out patterns better than people. So it seems that even if I don't think about building the database of my knowledge or my documents, I can actually connect it to the model or give the access to the model and then to find out some patterns and metadata. Or there is also an approach that I can think about it consciously and build a metadata to enrich the metadata of the documents, PowerPoints, my own, anything that I have it in my database, and even the film, as we've mentioned, this multimodality, and then give it to the model. Still, that's a huge question from my side, that this will be connected with effort, so the cost itself, right? Is there any kind of aspect to how to think about that? Should I think about dropping and giving access to whole data, or is it just a subset? It seems that we are talking about use cases, right? And thinking about what is needed, not like, let's try out everything.
Yeah, this depends on the use case. So probably the only correct answer here is it depends. So probably connecting all of your internal knowledge to train the data is not a good idea due to like security and compliance. So AI models can also be hacked, and there is something like a prompt injection, which basically would allow to extract the data from the model that should not be made public. So it's really important to, especially when connecting like this kind of unstructured data, like dumping everything into the as a training data for the model. This can end like really really bad for us as a company if done incorrectly.
I've seen examples where the company was like experimenting with that and giving access to like HR data, and you can ask like, what is salary of my boss, or tell me everything about person A, B, and C, right? It can go very fast, it can go wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And this is a really easy mistake to be done, right? Especially if we're having some kind of like personal identification information, or we need to comply with GDPR. So this is a big risk that we need to incorporate into the process of training the model and using the model, right?
Right, so we are back at the this aspect of getting a prototype is easy, but then you need to scale up, and the part of scaling up is building security and building accuracy, and building some guardrails, right? So don't tell my wage, right? Or however, whatever is the secret in the company. So putting rules, strict rules, putting a processes, and getting from prototype to something which is a standard, that seems like a 80% or 90% of the effort, right? So it's also the cost itself. We need to take that into consideration.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, actually, this is you touched a very interesting topic where there's a completely different approach when we want to get to the market as quick as possible and then scale the usage of it. So more often than not, this will also require us to change the architecture, basically use a completely different approach in this regard. So, like I mentioned in the beginning, it's completely fine to quickly prototype using some kind of publicly available API, because this would allow us to basically go to the market much quicker with all of our data. So like do a rack and basically dump all of our information to the context of some big foundation model, retrieve the data and make use of it. But once we actually scale, once we get to the market, once we want to do something that is something that is less typical use case, once we want to scale our solution in general, new problems would arise. And probably to solve some of those problems, we would need to completely change the approach here, right? So the one big model to solve all of our problems is fine at the beginning, but this solution does not scale well. Once we have more industry focused problems, once we have something that a typical large language model cannot solve, and I suppose this is the goal that we want to have, right? So basically we want to create something unique, right? We don't want to create another clone of an app that is already there, another chatbot, and basically we have no moat there. We want to create some kind of solution that is unique to us, that cannot be easily replicated.
And when you're mentioning the moat, right, you're talking about competitive advantage, right? It's coming from the story of leaked Google emails, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it's not only about the Google, that Google does not have a moat in terms of creating the foundation models, but us as a product company, when we're thinking about creating some kind of AI product based on our data, it's worth to think about it whether we have a moat. So if our integration is just asking OpenAI API, basically something similar to ChatGPT, and making use of the data back, it's nothing preventing our competition to doing exact same thing, right? We have no moat here.
Correct.
So the next step when we are scaling our integration with AI, when creating new features, is to basically split the usage into more smaller but more specialized models.
Okay.
This brings many benefits. First, it's usually cheaper to do. So the general term is where if the model is bigger, then the usage is more expensive, right? Because you're paying for all the capabilities of the model, even if you're not using it, right? So we want to have a simple operation. We don't need the knowledge of the Shakespeare or whatever that the models also fit into. So at some point in time, it would be more beneficial for us to actually create our own smaller but more focused models, and then make use of it in the process. It's much more difficult because the process is not so straightforward anymore. We probably need to create multiple smaller models. There's like a mixture of experts approach where we create different models and then basically route to the one that can give the best results.
And when you're mentioning the different models, you are talking about not only the different types of models, but the different use cases or the different functionality that they are providing to you, right? That there could be a model that gives you changing image to the video, and then the different model which is changing that to text and specialize it for this specific use case in this language or grammar, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah. So. One example that is public, so I think I can talk about it, because we also got some examples, but I'm not ready to talk about them yet. But one example that is public is a Builder.io case, when they're very transparent how they actually build their solution. And for their case, their case is basically you fit a Figma design and receive a completely working app on the other side, right? So this is a nice case also of multimodality, where the input is not only image but rather some kind of file format, but basically it could be also an image. And on the other end, you got code, but the actual product more than a product of the code rather than the markup. So the naive way of thinking of building this would be to basically dump the screenshot of the Figma UI to ChatGPT, right? We can upload images over there. So I can upload the image, ask it to generate a React code for me, and voila, I should have something that I can make use of. But the result of such approaches it does not work really well. Okay, it will return you something, but more often than not, this would not be very useful for you.
And that's due to the fact that tool which is doing everything is a weak tool, right? So there is no silver bullet for everything. And this is like approach, like I'm either selecting Microsoft Office with 10,000 functionalities or I'm selecting Google with one, right?
Mm-hmm. Exactly, yeah. So what they have done is actually train fewer smaller models just for the use case, right? So instead of creating one big model to do everything, they trained one model to basically know where different elements on the design is, right? Where we have images, what kind of markup should be where, right? Then they have different model trained to, based on this information, how to generate the code. Then we have also different smaller models to do it. And then we have different models that can basically, based on these intermediary steps, can produce different markups. So, okay, maybe we want to use Tailwind, maybe we can use something different. So based on the initial data, then we can basically do some kind of routing on the way. And,
right.
and
this is not obvious, right? This is not obvious that I can think about it in a way that it's not one model that solves the use case, but there could be multiple models which are actually created specifically for sub-functionality, and I can connect them in the flow, right? So I can have 5 models, every is specialized in different step, correct?
Yeah, this is basically how most often than not this is done at scale. So basically we get like a mixture of models and smaller models, but more focus on a specific task. This is in some way going back to the roots, right? So like machine learning basically arises from this idea that we have some kind of small task that we can basically automate. Machine learning at its core, it's basically just a statistics analysis. This is something different. This can also basically more reason about the data. We can basically do it much quicker.
And is it also, if we're talking about quicker, I'm still trying to refer that to the cost. If I'm going for a big model, it's a big cost. If I'm going for specialized small models, I need to train them particularly well. Is that the situation that it's cheaper to do it, or it's cheaper in handling that later if I'm having small specialized models compared to the big one?
Depends on the use case, but the general rule of thumb is that you would pay more at the beginning, right? So you need to train the models, you need to allocate resources for that, but later on executing the model would be cheaper for you. So whether this is beneficial overall is something that just needs to be calculated, basically like a total cost of ownership of a model. This is something that needs to be calculated on a per case basis.
Right, and is it a common situation that if I'm starting with thinking about my use case, I can decompose that into smaller steps? Is it available on the market that I can find out model which is good for this kind of use case and I can start to train it? Or should I think about it that I need to create it from the scratch?
You could try to create it from the scratch, but like I mentioned at the beginning, this is probably not the way to move forward. This is extremely expensive to create foundation models. A much better approach would be to be based on something that's already created, right? So either on some kind of open source model, like Llama from Meta, or models from Mixtral, which are open source and basically created exactly for this use case. So you can base on it and then tailor it more to your specific needs.
And on my data, right? So that's a competitive advantage also,
yes,
right?
Exactly. So so you don't need to do the whole foundation model stuff, but you can basically give the focus more on the delivering the value. There is also APIs that foundation models available via API that you can use. So OpenAI and Google both provide you this kind of tools. In case of Google, there is Vertex AI, which let's assume that you get a product where you need to like identify number of calories based on a photo, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So we want to create a photo, we want to make a photo in our app, and then we need some kind of model that will basically tell us how many calories are in the dish, right? We can already do this in our using ChatGPT, but try it right now. Would probably give you some kind of results, maybe good, maybe worse, something that is good for a prototype, but probably not a good to build a complete product around it.
Right, not accurate enough and not giving you this kind of correctness of the answer, right?
Yeah, so it's a nice party trick, but basically it would not be scalable if you want to do a business around it. So what you can do in this case is basically use few different smaller models. So you can use like Vertex AI, which already have a foundation model for image recognition. So it's already pre-trained to be good at finding specific things on a photo, but you need to basically fine-tune it on what things you are looking at in the specific photo. So with a big enough database of photos, and how to gather them is a completely separate topic. But you can basically fine-tune the model to make sure that can identify the vegetables, all of the products in the meal.
Right.
And then our output from this model is basically a list of produce that we have for our dish, right? Then we have a completely different model, or it doesn't even have to be a model. Then we can use our database that we may have already, or like a non-AI product that basically can map all of the produce to the calories count, because models can also do it, but it's much more cheaper and basically more effective and even quicker to do it traditional way, right? So if in this pipeline we don't need to use AI models on all of the steps, right? It's rather use AI where it's beneficial to use it, and fall back to a typical code or database queries or old way, so to speak, of doing things when it's more suitable to do it. It will always be much cheaper to do it.
Yeah, it's cheaper. It seems that we are back in with the thinking and with AI back to this kind of paradigm that the use case, so the idea, is more important than the technology used or the execution almost. Of course, there is the aspect of scaling up, but what we are talking here is that it's easy to start. You can dive into very high costs very soon. So it's worth of thinking if the use case that you are after is really worth of solving, right? I can imagine also, and this is a question probably, that is it so that if I'm getting one use case built, for sure I can use it with a different problem. So it's worth of actually thinking about reusability of the use cases, especially if I'm connecting that with like a pipeline, right? And different solutions. Should that be my approach, that if I'm start small, but think about covering more use cases? Or is it like thinking about this one great idea, one use case that will bring money from the market?
This depends on the use case. So the same question could be asked to the product fit overall, right? So do you want to solve one problem or rather a suite of problems to your users? So it depends on when your value generation actually is. More often than not, it would be better to reuse either the knowledge of how to build the models and how to basically make use of the data that you have to deliver value in different areas. You can partially, if you create more smaller models, you can basically compose them in different scenarios as well. So this is also another solution. If you build some kind of data sets, if you sanitize those data sets for one particular case to train a model, you can then reuse it to train it as an input to train a different model or fine tune. When I say train, I mean basically fine tuning a model.
Correct, because it's back to the statement that we have made that creating a prototype is easy, but getting it right, so getting accuracy, getting scale, that's where the costs appear, and that's where it's getting hard.
Yeah.
I'm trying to wrap up my notes on the takeaways that we have. We have not even touched the whole horizon of the topics, but from the things that we have discussed from cost perspective for a CEO, I see that we have discussed the main source of costs coming from the fact that you need people, so you need a specific skill set, and in most of the cases it's not there on the market, like available, so you need to search for that. We can think about probably consultancy or getting experts. We've talked about the cost coming from the fact that the processing, building, and training is the main factor. So it's not only the fact that we need to build a prototype, but we need to actually run it then. And we are risking of this sign that, sorry, we are out of the tokens, which can be disaster. You've mentioned also a very specific thing, and I wanted to think if we have anything to add to that on the competitive advantage, so this moat, right? That it can come from the fact that we are either building a new model, which very few can afford that, but specializing in my own models, which are fine-tuned for my use case, or building small models. That could be advantage, and then connecting them all together. And then two more things connected with the cost is the thinking about getting specific use cases thought through. It seems that this is the aspect. So think about what you want to automate, because you can automate and build AI for everything. The question is it worth of doing that? And then this expert aspect, which is pretty critical, right? So getting the experience, everybody is jumping on, so getting the experience from the market or from different partners, that could be interesting aspect. But coming back to this competitive advantage, do you see anything else that we should look for in context of how to make use of our money and investment in the best way, as this is a cost?
Yeah, so basically data is king, right? So this is a phrase that is it's not a new one, but nowadays it's the moment that we can capitalize from all of this data that we are gathering for the last years. So this is basically the best mode that an average company can have at the moment, right? So the general rule of thumb is that if you can build quickly some kind of solution, integrate with publicly available APIs for foundation models, and ship a product to market quickly, then anyone can, right? So it's basically you got no moat, no competitive advantage at here. You can basically compete by price or by other features, but this is going to be really a red ocean. You're going to face a big competition there.
Right.
Much better approach, in my opinion, is to basically make use of the proprietary data that you have. So if you have a product already on few years on the market, this is a great moment to look into your data sets, and there is a big chance that you have some kind of gold over there that you're not even aware of. So it's good to maybe think about it. Maybe I believe many companies sit on a really valuable data and they are not aware of it. So they actually have the moat, but they don't know. They basically need to fill the water over there because they're not aware that that they have the moat.
But that's where the experts can come in, right? So if I have experience, then in the building solutions, I can actually spot that kind of gold, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so I can involve some partners or somebody who can, I believe, that do assessment and actually give me any kind of hints.
Yeah, especially that if we're working with those data on a daily basis, probably we need someone from an outside vision to look at the big picture sometimes. We may be too tunnel visioned on our data when we're working with it on a daily basis, right? So it's beneficial to hire someone to look from the outside to ensure that maybe we're actually missing something obvious here.
Right. And definitely we are past the phase of R&D with AI, right? So it's no longer like we are checking the ground. So it's everybody is jumping in, everybody wants to build it. So even more, we need to be aware of the costs, and going crazy with getting the latest models will not give you the returns, right?
Yeah, like AI is not a fad anymore. It's here to stay.
Yeah.
So if you're not using AI, then your competition probably is. So you should basically catch up with this
Exactly.
race.
And this is probably the last question that I'm having in my mind around this from the perspective of the cost in AI. If I'm not yet on the wave, am I too late? Can I think about it that it's the boat has sailed away, or is there still time to jump in and start from basics?
Yeah, so like the best moment to get involved is probably a few years back.
Oh yeah, let's transfer
but the second best moment to do it is now. So
Right.
yeah, it's not late yet. So I believe that we're still on a rising tide of AI involvement in our daily lives. So it's not too late. So it's still possible to catch up. It's still possible to basically make use of our advantage that we may have in different sectors to make use of it. Basically, AI is like an efficiency multiplier. So if you already got some kind of product, we can use it to basically get quickly up to speed with others. So not doing it is basically not the wise business decision
Right, so definitely think about that, but don't go crazy with that, right? Think about the costs, think about the investment, think about the partners you can use. This is actually a good thing that it's late. So the marketer is already there, so the experts are there, somebody with the experience, somebody who has built that.
The novelty effect is, I believe, is a little bit fading now. So we are looking at AI more at where it can actually provide value rather than, oh, cool, this is like a really complete, more than like a party trick, right? It's rather, we are more mature now and we looking where the AI can actually deliver value to our product.
Oh yeah. That would be a great another topic to move to and have probably a special episode around that. But just through the perspective of the time, I guess that we've covered a broad area of the topics connected with cost. Thanks again for the great introduction to the topic and actually getting into the roots of the cost at least. I guess that we will continue on that and with our guests. But for now, I guess it's all that we wanted to cover. And thank you for watching Product Odyssey. Remember to give us a feedback, to give us ideas for any kind of improvements if you see, or ask us questions. You can find us on LinkedIn. You can find us on any media. And thank you for watching and listening to the episode. And keep exploring, and see you next time. Thank you.